What if one of the most powerful voices in modern Freemasonry wasn't just talking about ritual, but about awakening? Tonight, we dive into Emergence of the Mystical by Henry C. Clausen, a work that challenges us to look beyond the words of the ritual and into the inner transformation it was designed to ignite. Was Clausen pointing to a hidden current within Freemasonry? Is there a deeper mystical path woven into the craft that many have overlooked? Let's uncover the vision behind the veil.
The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests, and do not represent the views of any Grand Lodge nor appendant body of Freemasonry.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Masonic Shelf, a podcast where we crack open the pages of esoteric and Masonic literature and discuss their impact on the fraternity. And my name is Brad Kohanke.
And I'm Chris Williams. And this month we have the honor of opening up and going through a book by the name of Emergence of the Mystical, which is written by illustrious Henry C. Clausen, 33rd degree, and Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States. He was Sovereign Grand Commander for but just about 16 years, and he wrote this book. Original printing was in 1980. There was another printing in 1981. It's not a very long book, but it's got a lot of information in it, and we've got some background information of our own that we picked up over the years in the Scottish Rite. And I think you got something to start us off with, Brett.
Yeah. Let me just read this by way of intro. This book is essentially Clausen's attempt to explain where mysticism comes from, why it shows up again and again across different cultures and time periods, and what it's actually trying to do. And he's not just talking about mysticism as something mysterious or supernatural. He treats it more like a human response to life, especially to the big questions people have wrestled with forever, like what's real and what's beyond the surface of things. Is there a deeper order to existence? Clausen looks at mysticism as something that doesn't appear out of nowhere. He argues that it emerges gradually, shaped by religion, philosophy, symbolism, and the inner experience of individuals. And one of the main ideas running through the book is that mysticism isn't just an odd side road of history. It's been a consistent thread in the development of human thought. Throughout the book, he touches on the ways mystical traditions develop, how they influence mainstream religion, and how they often survive through symbolism and hidden or inner teachings. He also spends time on the tension that tends to show up between mystical experience and institutional authority, because mysticism is usually personal and institutions usually want structure. So, in this episode, we're going to walk through Clausen's main themes, what we think the book contributes, and what it leaves unanswered, and then we'll wrap up with an overall take on whether it's worth your time. So, you like this book, right?
Well, I liked it in a way that I not the same way that I like other books. I got a really kind of a wow experience while I was going through it. It doesn't contain, like we talked earlier, it doesn't contain anything hugely profound. I think he's bringing mysticism down to a level for that everybody can understand and everybody can relate to, and I think he does a pretty good job of it. Uh, uh, I know that we've taught the Scottish Rite degrees and from all of the books that are available, including the commentary books, and I'm really the worst of all. I never had anything good to say about Brother Clausen's commentaries. I thought they were watered down. They didn't speak to the esoteric mystical part of Masonry, and I always played it down, and now I'm feeling kind of bad about that because uh, after seeing the emergence of the mystical and the total, I don't know, contradiction between the two. They could have been written by two different men, the way that's written. And I it popped into my head that, oh my gosh, what if he inadvertently, consciously or unconsciously, or maybe intuitively, wrote a book that bridges the gap between the Blue Lodge and the Scottish Rite? Because the Blue Lodge Masons coming out of the Blue Lodge and go in and take the degrees of the Scottish Rite, and all of a sudden, boom, they're face to face with Albert Pike and morals and dogma. And sometimes that's a real slap in the face. And if he did this on purpose, then I have to bow to his intuition and all of that, because I have talked to guys over the years that have gotten introduced to Pike and have decided that, man, this is too much for me. I can't do this, and we
Yeah.
don't see him again. I'm sure you have too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's why we study. That's why we started those study groups via Zoom to read through Pike a chapter at a time and then discuss it, because trying to do it by yourself is really, really difficult. It's a slog. But if you get 20 or 30 guys reading the chapter and then talking about it, you're able to understand it much better, because you have not only your opinion, but the opinions of others. And then you kind of combine the two and figure out what it is that he's trying to say. And I agree with you. I think this is a great stepping stone to the Scottish Rite for a recent reunion attendee. I think if he read this and Clausen's commentaries on morals and dogma, he's getting introduced to the mystical aspects of Masonry
Yeah,
in a very slow and methodical fashion. It's not just all thrown at him at once. It's
exactly.
it's it's explained in a way that is digestible, you know?
Exactly. And he's not, when he gets the shock, Clausen is saying, it's okay. Okay. Come on in. And, I
Yeah,
just,
it's not what you think it is.
exactly. It's not as bad as you think it is. And I feel bad that I have turned my back on that for all these years. But like I say, I see Brother Clausen in a whole new light.
Good. Well, before we go any further, and start getting into the meat of the book, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous. It's a slow process, and I'm way too impatient, and I'm being told to slow down and not worry about it, and it'll happen. So I'm about 8 more months to 100% health, but I'm feeling good, and I got my mind back. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, how much metal do you have in you now?
I will not be boarding a plane anytime soon, nor going to the Olympics. Either one.
Well, I'm sure the guys are happy that you're doing well, and they're happy to see you back. Jason did a hell of a job um,
Awesome.
in your absence.
Yeah, I thought
And,
I was gonna have to start my own podcast or something because
yeah, no, he did really well, and we'll have to have him as a guest reviewer on occasion
excellent,
if he'll
excellent.
come back out in front of the camera.
Well, and he's got a lot of responsibilities right now. So
Yeah, yeah. All right, man. Well, let's get into this book. Um, I'm sure you've got things that you'd like to talk about,
it's
and
it's a huge collection of quotes and
yeah,
snippets and stuff like that. And not a to me not a whole lot of story. There wasn't a story to it, that we were going to get to at the end. I think he was just trying to, and there's some fabulous stuff in here. Fabulous stuff in here. You got one you wanna go
Well,
with?
I'm gonna start with the introduction because
Yeah, the
he
introduction.
asked
Well,
General
before the
Harold.
introduction, read that the mission. That's pretty cool.
Oh, you go ahead. That
The
is,
historic mission of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, in essence, is to help people moral, spiritual, and intellectual development and happiness. Boy, that says a lot.
yeah. And did he write that? Because I don't remember ever having seen that.
Me either. I looked and I tried to do some research to see who wrote it, but I could never find out. And of course, there's no reference there at all.
Yeah. Well, so he asked General Harold K. Johnson, 33rd degree and Director of Education and Americanism, to write the introduction. And oddly enough, he he quotes um, Clausen in his introduction, which is probably the most interesting part of the introduction. And that he says the theme he chose in his words presents a in startling terms the coming great transition when science and religion will be welded into a unified exponent of an overriding spiritual power. Startling because the impact of this innovation will transport a developing world far into the distant future, and yet keyed to revelations that our Scottish Rite has derived from a long historic past. The prospect is exciting, albeit radical, and will accelerate much more quickly a breakthrough towards spiritual prone age where there will be an increased understanding of humanity's place in God's universe. This optimistic vision is all the more alluring as we move into a super industrial society that will have solved the control of the world's growth and economy. The theme, in essence, is that the revelations of Eastern mysticism and the discoveries of modern science support the Masonic and Scottish Rite beliefs and teachings. These fundamental concepts remain firm despite the revelations and discoveries. And I think that's a great way to introduce the book because that's exactly what he talks about. He's talking about how Masonry and the Scottish Rite in particular have always tried to present spirituality and science as not opposing each other, but complementing each other.
Exactly.
And for so long, they have been antagonistic. But as he explains in the book later on, when you start to get into quantum physics and quantum mechanics, all of these ancient teachings from not only Eastern mysticism, but even some Western philosophies are proving to be true. The oneness of everything and energy. And it's a fascinating theory. And it was a great way to introduce the book. I like that.
I agree, and I think that he I felt like he was very aware of the contradiction, not contradictions, but the uh dang it, the difference between religion and mysticism and esotericism, and all of that, being like knocking against each other, and then all of a sudden you introduce Pike in the middle of it, and things kind of go and I think he was really aware of that, and has tried in this thing to really tell the story that, hey, it all fits together and it's good. It's all good. There's some great quotes in here.
Yeah, the first chapter is called "The Dawn of Immortality," and it really is kind of an overview of what it is that he's getting ready to talk about. He's got some really cool quotes in here from Walter Raleigh and Ivan Albright, the Bhagavad Gita, Charles Steinmetz, um, Ralph Waldo Emerson. I mean, he's got really good stuff in here, but the one that I highlighted that I thought was really cool was when he someone asked Charles Steinmetz, the great electrical wizard, what branch of science now will make the most progress?
Yeah.
He shrugged his shoulders, knit his brow, put his hand on his head, and thought for several minutes. And then, like a flash, he said, spiritual realization. When man comes to a conscious, vital realization of those great spiritual forces within himself and begins to use these in science, in business, and in life, his progress in the future will be unparalleled. Oh, that was kind of cool.
Very, very cool. And there's a quote on one of the later pages that just hit me really hard, and it because it I wondered why he put it in there, but I know now, but after seeing the quote that comes after it and everything. But the quote was from Alexis Carrel. Did you see that quote?
Yeah, go ahead.
More powerful than all the combined atomic energy the world will ever put together is that most powerful emanation of the human spirit by which a soul goes out on the wings of prayer and commands an audience with its God. That's a wow.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And he talks about the power of the human spirit later on in the book, and we'll touch on it then. But um, just as foreshadowing, you know, the when the in a football game, for instance, when one team makes a great play and it sparks the rest of the team to start doing much better, and then they overcome adversity, and the tide kind of changes in
Yep.
favor of that team. That's that power of the human spirit
Yeah.
demonstrated, you
Yeah.
know, and it's an intangible thing. I mean, you can't see it, you can't measure it, but you can see the results of it, and
Yep.
I think that's really neat.
You got it. The old momentum.
Yeah, yeah. And he goes on to quote Douglas MacArthur and a couple of other pretty famous people. I mean, there's a lot of really good quotes in here.
And from a really diverse group of human beings too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean,
You
you
got
look
Ralph Waldo Emerson and Douglas MacArthur.
yeah, and then Einstein. I mean,
And-
you throw
yeah,
Einstein in there because always the antagonism between science and spiritualism. Einstein pretty much puts it to bed as far as I'm concerned. On the man's destiny, the search for truth. That was a heck of a quote.
yeah. I highlighted that one too. That's the very first part of chapter two. And he's got quotes in here from Nicholas Copernicus and Charles Darwin. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's really, really good stuff. So that quote from Einstein, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mystical. It is the source of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. To know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty which our dull faculties can comprehend only in the most primitive forms, this knowledge, this feeling, is at the center of true religiousness. In this sense, and in this sense only, I belong to the ranks of the devoutly religious men. Albert Einstein.
Doesn't that kind of put the old wives' tale about science and spirituality being adverse to each other to bed?
I think so. I mean, it's obvious that Einstein believes in a higher being and something beyond the mortal understanding, but he stops short at identifying with any particular dogma or religion.
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
what do we call those now? SBNRs,
Yeah,
spiritual but not religious.
exactly. Exactly. What do you think? I'm going to just throw this out here, and I don't know. Do you think that Clausen might have been towing the line, easing over the line of towards the Aquarian era?
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah,
Um, it was he was he was what, in his 70s when he
yeah,
wrote this.
yeah.
So and that was in 1980 when it was first published, and then the second edition was 1981. So he would have been in his late 40s, early 50s in the 1960s when, the whole age of
Age of
Aquarius
Aquarius, whole thing.
started to kind of come into the public eye, so to speak.
Yeah,
So yeah, I definitely think so.
yeah.
This quote was interesting, and continuing on in that chapter, power elites cynically sway the masses in support of their own enslavement. The bellow of the demagogues outshouts the voice of reason. Enlightened patriotism, which seeks freedom and justice and equity for all, is criticized. The mob with raised fist replaces the citizen with secret ballot.
My God, is that last week? Did
I
he
know
write
this is
that last week?
45 years ago, right?
No, that's great. That's one of them I highlighted too. That's and it shows that the only thing that changes is the people. The situations, the up and down, the ebb and flow of good and evil and back and forth and back stays the same. It keeps doing it. The names change, but it's the people that can't remember and they can't. You and I both have lived through at least three major upheavals just in this country.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the
and
pendulum swings, right, bud?
it's all the way, all one way and all the way back.
Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting.
Commercialized mass media make the false guilt of stylish trivia appear golden truth. And it's funny because, this was at a time when the media was criticizing Reagan and his conservative approach to politics.
Yeah,
And maybe that's why it rings so familiar, because it's kind of the same thing is happening now.
exactly,
You know?
exactly. Yeah, don't stop there. Do the next two
Oh, yeah, I
sentences.
know. What is profitable is in, what is unprofitable is out. The celebrity is modern man's philosopher. Fashion substitutes for fact. Man's insatiable desire for truth is glutted with spacious substitutes. Specious. Human self esteem is lost. Real values are questioned. The truth goes homeless. In light of his collapsing self esteem, modern man still asks some heroic questions. Is there a grandeur of destiny for some or all human beings? What is the end product the earth machine is intended to produce? What must you do to assure a creative, eternal continuance of your life? In short, what will your life serve a cosmic purpose? You know, those questions are eternal.
Yeah,
Everybody has them, right, left, middle, up,
right.
down, rich, poor. It doesn't matter. These are the questions that are common to everybody. And if we could just remember that, we'd get along a lot better.
You got that right. And masonry as a system or as a craft, is specifically designed to give you answers to a lot of those questions.
Yeah,
But
at least point you in the right direction, right?
huh?
At least point you in the right direction.
Exactly. But again, it's like we were told over and over again. It's an individual journey. It's not a, it's not a, nobody can walk it with you. You got to figure it out for yourself. And unfortunately, not a lot of guys figure it out. But this is great stuff here.
Yeah, I know that in San Antonio, Scottish Rite, you guys don't do the full form opening.
No,
Um, and when I moved to Little Rock, I saw it for the first time, and there is one part in there where they're asking what the answer is, basically, to life's questions. And the response is, "It is my secret. Every man must define it for himself." So,
absolute,
yeah,
profound, totally,
yeah, yeah.
totally, completely.
When I heard that, I was like, "Oh man, I wish we'd done the full form opening in San Antonio."
That the next chapter, that first paragraph is pretty cool.
Yeah, a new era beckons.
Today
Yeah,
we are.
I have that highlighted too. Go
You
ahead.
did?
Yeah.
I think we highlighted all the
Well,
same.
I highlighted practically the entire book. I mean, look at
Yeah,
this.
really. That's true. That's true. I got my little feathery stuff in there,
You got to
Uh,
put it in front of your face. I can't see it.
oh, today we are at the threshold of a new era. All signs point to this fact. Despite the forebodings, we find ourselves at a rare and climatic turning point in our wobbly world's history. Those with a visionary, apocalyptic, prophetic, or intuitive frame of mind seem to feel we are in a period of hours before dawn. Oh my God, yes, right?
Hmm.
There is a stir in the air, a change coming of large dimensions, such as arose among the Jews before the birth of Christ. We look towards a transformation into a new age, using, however, the insights and wisdom of the ancient mysteries.
Hmm.
I mean, I could have saved the question about the age of Aquarius until after reading this,
Well,
but
yeah.
it's
Yeah. I mean, when he says we find ourselves at a rare and climactic turning point in our wobbly world's history, he's making a veiled reference to the precession of the
season of
equinox,
the equinox.
and as the Earth wobbles every 2,150 years, a new zodiacal sign is in the east prior to sunrise on the spring equinox. And he's making a reference to the Jews prior to the birth of Jesus and the age of Pisces, the dawning of the age of Pisces,
Yep,
and now the dawning of the age of Aquarius. So yeah, I mean, when you said that, I was like, there's a quote in here that we're going to get to.
yep, yep, yep. And I had forgotten. I'd put big stars all over it. And he continued. He goes. This is over and over and over again. It's like he's collected these things over a long period of time, and then collected them and stuck them in this book. And it's like I say, it's not a story. It's a bits and pieces of all the most important things you need to know.
What about that quote from the Idol of the White Lotus
Uh,
on the previous page? There are three truths which are absolute and which cannot be lost, but yet may remain silent for lack of speech. The soul of man is immortal, and its future is the future of a thing whose growth and splendor has no limit. The principle which gives life dwells in us and without us. It is undying and eternally beneficent, is not heard or seen or smelt, but is perceived by the man who desires perception. Each man is his own absolute lawgiver, the dispenser of glory or gloom to himself, the decreer of his life, his reward, and his punishment.
you know what this seems to me? You do it too. You see a great quote or you see a great uh, a paragraph that was written by somebody, and you copy and you paste it, someplace so that you can go back and look at it later. And pretty soon you've got page after page after page of these things. It looks like that's what this is. that he's collected this over years and just decided to put it out there for everybody to see. It's
Yeah.
fabulous.
I remember the first time I did that. It was uh, it was a quote from the Old Testament. I think it was a proverb, and it said something along the lines of, "Do not withhold from those to whom something is due if it is within your power to provide it." And the reason that I had that quote pinned to my bulletin board next to my desk is because it was the first time I was in a position of management, and I wanted to remember that, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I can see him doing that. And then he's like looking through it, picking and choosing which ones to stick in the book, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And feel and remembering how each one of them made him feel, made him
Yeah.
think, you know.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
It's pretty neat. Makes me
Yep.
want to
Not a
start
very long,
collecting quotes.
yeah, it's not a very long book, and we're less than halfway through.
I know. Well, we have a lot to talk about in this one. And
Yes,
so,
yes, 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 yes.
so he goes on to say the ancient truths have remained untouched through the flux and foible of human history. The insight of great thinkers of the past have been constant beacons of guidance, even during the darkest seas of social unrest. Now we approach these great lights using tools of contemporary science. This new world view is emerging because there has been a recent correlation between modern physics and the mysticism of Eastern religions. And that's his intro into um, quantum quantum physics and how it relates to mysticism.
Yep, yep. Did you like that one story in there where a rabbi had written to Einstein about
Oh yeah, I highlighted that one too.
what
Yeah,
a what a great story. What a great
that's
story.
later on, right?
Well, it's
It's late.
it's a couple 3 pages back from where we are right now, but
It's
God,
yeah, it's on. It's about 3 pages ahead of where we are.
yeah, yeah.
It's in the next chapter called "Hidden Truths Revealed."
Yep, yep.
Oh, and he talks about Stephen Hawking in here.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Now science has attempted to explain the inexplicable through correlation with the wisdom of Eastern mystics. This puts our Scottish Rite rituals and teachings in tune with modern science. It is found that ancient mystical teachings seem to anticipate modern scientific theories. Under Einstein's theory, the world is not built out of independent entities, but is instead a web of elements that have relationships only to the whole. That was what the Eastern mystics knew and taught, and they called this apparent separation of objects Maya, an illusory appearance of the world. Everything's part of the whole. All is mind, to to go back to Hermeticism, right?
Every bit, every bit, every bit.
Marcus Aurelius, the
Right.
little Stoic philosophers.
Speaking of this idea, Einstein was a subject of this story that illustrates his thinking. When he was 70 and living in Princeton, an ordained rabbi had written explaining that he had sought in vain to comfort his 19-year-old daughter over the death of her sister, a sinless, beautiful 16-year-old child. The surviving daughter found no comfort based on traditional religious grounds. The rabbi said, but had told her mother that perhaps a scientist could help. And that kind of blew my mind when I got to that part, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Einstein wrote in reply, a human being is part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole nature in its beauty. Nobody is able to achieve this completely, but the striving for such achievement is in itself a part of the liberation and foundation for inner security. Wow.
Yeah. I like the ending. Nobody has achieved this completely, but striving for it,
Yeah. Yeah.
searching for it is an achievement in itself. And I think that's why we do this.
You're right.
I mean, ultimately, we know that we may never experience that oneness with deity that we're striving for on this plane. But is there anything more important to donate your time to? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah. And not knowing where you are on that journey is confusing, aggravating, uh, uh, unnerving at times, but also it's peace. It's a little bit of knowing, because of the connections that you make along the way.
yeah. What is it? Uh, a sailor will never discover new lands if he never leaves sight of his home shore. To wrestle with the great questions of humanity and look for answers. I don't understand people who don't do that, who
Yeah,
just kind of float along on
right,
the sea of life, going wherever the tide takes them,
right,
and living in reaction to what life throws at them instead
exactly.
of taking control of their lives and managing the direction, you know, staying at the tiller
Absolutely,
to
absolutely,
keep with the sailor theme.
exactly. You know, repeating everything that they've heard and believing things that other people have said instead of making their own opinion, their own perception of something.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most important things I've learned from Freemasonry is to take control of my own life, you know?
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah.
Totally good. And how many, just to throw out, I mean, this is another personal observation. You and I have been friends a long time. Uh, how many times that we have been talking and something that you said exploded in my mind, uh, uh, because I'd been thinking about it, you know,
Mm.
something that I hadn't considered before, something that made a connection to something else over here or over there or whatever. It's wow, wow, and you don't get that unless you're thinking about it already.
Yeah, like we said, those are those aha moments that we
Yep,
live for.
yep,
Remember when we were in Houston talking about the light going through the slits experiment?
yes, yes,
He talks about that. He says, but this is what the ancient mystics meant when they said the observer and the observed are fundamentally one.
right,
It has been discovered that the very act of observation itself sometimes changes the object from what it was. This inherent motion and unity of all things are what the Zen masters, Hindu holy men, and Taoist thinkers taught. And this is that slit where the light travels through it,
yep. The slip, yep,
and whether you observe it or not changes it from a uh, particle to just a ray of light, right?
right,
To a
and
wave. It's
and of
either a
course,
wave or a particle, depending
exactly
on whether or not you're observing it.
right. And depending on how you're looking at it, and it goes right. I mean, that just segues right into the next chapter where he says the greatest discovery of my generation is that we learn we can alter our lives by altering our attitudes of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Manifestation, right? The great secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read something the other day that said if you are depressed, tilt your head back, close your eyes, and smile for 20 seconds. So I tried it, and it's hard not to be
Yeah,
affected by the fact that you smiled for 20 seconds.
exactly.
You know?
So, sometimes you're smiling because you smiled for 20 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. I must look goofy to other people. Okay, mysticism, key to knowledge. To the average man, the word mystic evokes concepts of magic, the occult, and the esoteric. Mystics are viewed as rainbow gazing dreamers and useless wool gathering visionaries who practice a passive, fruitless quietism. Nothing is farther from the truth. True mystics are initiates in the unifying principle of life. Initiate or initiate, in fact, means to begin, to get going, to introduce to knowledge. The initiate to mysticism is active, dynamic, and productive. The Kabbalah of Judaism, the Song of Songs of the Old Testament, and Revelations in the New Testament are mystical writings. They spur action. They praise man's ability to achieve. What can be more inspiring than St. John's assertion that, quote, the truth shall make you free?
Yeah.
Then he
Wow.
goes on to quote Augustine, Dante, Joan of Arc, William Blake, John Woolman, all as mystics in their actions and behavior.
That that quote by Plato was pretty cool too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, read it.
Renouncing the honors at which the world aims, I desire only to know the truth and to live as well as I can, and when I die, to die as well as I can. And to the utmost of my power, I exhort all other men to do the same. And in return for your exhortation of me, I exhort you also to take part in great combat, which is the combat of life, and greater than every other earthly conflict.
Yeah, so Plato was saying the same thing that we were just talking about.
Pretty much, pretty
You know,
much, right on the money.
spend your time contemplating the important things of life and humanity. Throughout the ages, mystics learned again and again they must seek within themselves for the source of enlightenment. That's that inner journey, right?
Yep,
Vitriol. I know you weren't here the last 2 months when we were reviewing magic, myth, and masonry, and stellar theology and Masonic astronomy, because we really kind of got into the idea of catabasis and this the symbolism of the dying and regenerating of the sun
yep,
and what it means to us as going within ourselves, discovering who we really are, and then coming back a changed person.
right,
Um, that's that's as that allegory is as old as time itself with humans, you
yep.
know. Um, and that's what he's saying.
It's exactly,
Mystics
exactly,
learned again and again they must seek within themselves for the source of enlightenment. And and that's another teaching within the Scottish Rite that a lot of people gloss over and don't realize that God is manifest within us and without us. We talk about that divine spark that animates us from within,
right.
you know. And I know that there are some Christian churches that would poo-poo that statement. They believe that God is an external entity that lives outside of the universe that he created. He doesn't exist within his creation. But I don't believe that. I think he is everywhere. I mean, how can you be omnipresent if you exclude yourself from the thing you created?
Exactly,
So,
exactly,
how can he not be here and yet hear my inner thoughts or count the
exactly.
hairs on my head or know when
Yep.
the smallest sparrow falls? You
Yeah,
know?
too many contradictions for him not to be everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way too many. Way too many.
That's why when you truly examine yourself, you know for the most part the right thing to do. And sometimes people have to go to others to help them pull it out of themselves. But that's what psychiatrists do. They ask you questions until you figure it out for yourself. They don't tell you the answers.
Exactly right.
They question you. They make you do the inner work,
Yeah.
you
The
know?
the the answer is always there. The right answer is always there. You just gotta find it.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of
it's
like
within. It's within.
exactly.
And if you can learn to do that without the aid of psychiatry, you'll save a lot of money.
No, no doubt about it. And really and truly, if you ever truly understand what the symbols in our craft are all about, that's what they're all about.
Yeah.
Give you that
Yep.
ability.
Yep. The remainder of this chapter, he's quoting, or he's listing quite a few people that believe in that very thing. Plato, Pythagoras, Saint Gregory Palamas, Taoism and Lao Tzu, Chuang-Tzu, Buddhism, Brahmanism, the Upanishads of Vedic literature, Hinduism, Tantrism, Yoga, Buddha, Ashvagasha. He even talks about Merkaba in Judaism and Rabbi Abulafia,
A little bit of everybody.
Plotinus, Sufis, shamanism, St. Augustine, Martin Luther, St. Teresa, Emily Bronte, William Wordsworth, Alfred Lord Tennyson. I mean, just the list goes on and on. He's got so much good stuff in here.
Yes. Can I read that quote by Thomas Carlyle?
Yeah, I just got to it. Go for it.
Add to it. It is well said in every sense that a man's religion is the chief fact with regard to him. By religion, I do not mean here the church creed which he professes. This is not what I call religion, but the thing a man does practically believe, the thing a man does practically lay to heart and know for certain concerning his vital relations to this mysterious universe and his duty and destiny there. That is his religion. Very
Yeah,
cool.
and I don't think I've ever read this book by Thomas Carlyle, Heroes and Hero Worship, The
No.
Hero as Divinity, but it looks like it might be worth checking it out.
Yep. Yep.
So this chapter is called Seeking Inner Light. The Eastern mystics called the silent mind that which is beyond unconditioned thought. It is the same as awareness or esoteric thinking. If we can tap this state of consciousness, then a decision or problem is resolved that seems otherwise insoluble. There, in a quiet place where without effort to derive a logical answer, the supermind speaks, not an objective voice, but more an intuitive flash. Similar results occur when we try strenuously to recall a name, an address, or a phone number. After conscious efforts are exhausted and in a moment of mental relaxation, the information pops into mind without effort. How many
Ooh,
times has that happened?
that's
Where I
exactly
can't remember this guy's name for the
yeah,
life of me, and then I'll wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and his name is right there.
it's exactly right. Happens
You know?
all the time. Look, before you continue, you need to read the rest of it. But before you continue, do you see? I have a feeling that the next time we go to Morals and Dogma and Pike, we're going a lot of this that we're reading right now is going to come to us as we're reading Pike, because this is a softer a softer Pike, you
Mm.
know, softer. I don't know any other way to say it. It's just a softer uh uh
It's
Pike.
just more digestible.
Yeah,
It's
for
more easily
for
understood.
for contemporary for our day and age. Yes, I mean I
Yeah.
love Pike. I love what he says and everything. I love thinking about what he says. That's the important thing. you don't have to think as much about because it's pretty easy to digest and it's softer.
Well, and Pike's writings come across as stream of consciousness. It's like listening to somebody give a speech without notes. They
Right.
go off on a topic and
Right.
they kind of meander and they go off on tangents and then they come back to the main theme.
We know
With
somebody's like that.
Clausen, he's very meticulous in the way that he approaches a topic.
Yeah.
He's got an objective, he's got supporting evidence, and then he's got a conclusion. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, we know some of those guys that just keep on going and off on a tangent and
Yeah, unfortunately, they're no Albert Pike.
right.
Scottish Rite Masonry plays a strong and vital part in higher planes of thought. It looks ahead and far beyond man's reach. It orients man's perspective to science as well as to his life. And this is when he starts talking about the human spirit. It is a wonder-working force in a symphony orchestra, a football team, or a nation. It is what the acute physician stirs to action to help the sick fight for life. It is a sustaining force of courage in times of trial and discouragement. Clearly, this human spirit is something very real and actually operating and existing in nature. It is here that the inner meaning of our degrees offers our initiates the bright promise of understanding the nature of man's mind. All the psychic functions of sensation, feeling, thought, and desire are no more than a complicated machine incapable of independent action. The true man, the permanent, unchanging I, should be the master and ruler of the machine. But in nearly all people, this inner ruler is asleep or absent. In sober fact, they are automatic, acting only in response to the stimulations that come to them through their senses. These are those guys that never ask the tough questions of themselves, never seek answers.
Right.
They just kind of roll along with life as it gets
Well,
thrown
they
at
never
them,
seek answers
live in
because
a reactive life.
they in a large measure believe they already have those answers. From Albert Pike, of course. For this is the Masonic creed. Believe in God's infinite benevolence, wisdom, and justice. Hope for the final triumph of good over evil and for perfect harmony as the final result of all the concords and discords of the universe. And be charitable as God is towards the unfaith, the errors, the follies, and the faults of men, for all make one great brotherhood.
Was doing a presentation last night at our Scottish Rite meeting on the Scottish Rite version of the Master Mason's degree. And this reminded me of a particular part in there where he says, though our children nor our children's children will see the results of our labors, we still strive towards the betterment of humanity, hoping that our work would continue in subsequent generations. And it's like that quote, um, society grows great when men plant seeds under
And
whose branches they will never sit, right? In the shade of whose branches they will never sit.
exactly.
I've used that quote so many times in my Zoom classes, and that creed always reminds me of that.
Yeah. And it makes you think too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I-35, right?
Yeah. Never ends. The work never ends.
The guys that are working on it now will never get to see the end of it.
Yeah, and their kids will begin their careers and retire on the same freeway. Then he talks about the rite offering guidance. Our teachings and symbols preceded our formal organization by thousands of years. The alert Scottish Rite seeker of truth will finally perceive the futility of dependence upon personal things or upon approval or disapproval. We must find the answers within ourselves. The path to personal enlightenment is introspective.
One of my favorite quotes, though, is that Michelangelo one. It's like the story about Michelangelo. He saw a piece of misshapen marble that other sculptors had thrown away. They said it had no use for anything artistic that they could produce. Michelangelo exclaimed, "No, I see within it an imprisoned angel, and I shall set it free." He did and produced a great masterpiece.
Yeah.
Wow. That that could pertain to a lot of different things in our lives.
Yeah, if we would but look, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Thus, though we may utter the same words about God, they may not bear the same meaning for us all. But what does that matter? We do not need to proselytize either by our speech or by our writing. We can only do so really with our lives. Let our lives be open books for all to study. Boy, if that doesn't sum up
It does.
the true meaning of Masonry right there, huh?
And on the next page, I didn't mark much in this chapter either, but on the next page, down at the bottom, he says, "And so in every age and every time, man yearns to travel beyond the material, to grasp the supersensual, to touch the divine." Edwin Arlington Robinson was a most perceptive poet. He once wrote that the world is a vast kindergarten, peopled with millions of bewildered infants, all trying to spell the word God, but with the wrong blocks. The Scottish Rite teaches its members how to spell God with the right blocks. That truly is the great relevance of Scottish Rite Masonry in the modern world. We teach our initiates there are available for the mind of man vast spiritual forces, vital spiritual powers. Similarly, we in the Scottish Rite can find in our inner selves a refuge from external distractions and evils, just as peace and quiet are found at the eye of a hurricane. There the sun shines and birds fly. Put your trust in your own inherent capacities. Cool.
Yeah, I had that highlighted too, but I
Yeah.
went on with the Buddha attained his own enlightenment and said to his followers, "Be a lamp unto your own feet. Do not seek outside yourself."
Yep.
And that, that all goes back to that inner journey that we were talking about, discovering
Yep.
who it is we are and our own relationship to God and the universe. And
You,
then
you,
he quotes Jesus.
yeah.
He expressed the same opinion, for he said, "Neither shall they say, Lo here, or Lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you."
Exactly. You know, speaks directly to what you were saying just a little while ago.
Thou carriest within thee a sublime friend who thou knowest not. For God dwells in the inner part of every man, but few know how to find him. The man who sacrifices his desires and his works to the beings from whom the principles of everything stem, and by whom the universe was formed through this sacrifice, attains perfection. For one who finds his happiness and joy within himself, and also his wisdom within himself, is one with God. And mark well, the soul which has found God is freed from rebirth and death, from old age and pain, and drinks the water of immortality.
I think we screwed up at
Yeah.
the beginning. We said there wasn't a whole heck of a lot in here, right?
Yeah. Well, we might as well have just highlighted the entire book, right?
Pretty much. Pretty much. What a great book. Well, I'll wait till we're done. I wanted to say something, but
Yeah. Well, this is one of those books that kind of hits you later,
yeah.
you know? The fundamental theme of the Scottish Rite is a revelation of ultimate truth for man's moral, intellectual, and spiritual development. For this purpose, we draw upon the mystic wisdom of the ages, upon the discoveries of ancient Freemasonry, upon the knowledge, the secret knowledge, the symbology, the lesser and greater mysteries that have come down to us long over the centuries.
Wow. Yeah, he brings it all down into a little bottleneck that all goes right through the Scottish Rite. In our Scottish Rite, therefore, we are fortunate in our increase of self-understanding. We discover our inner selves and our essential natures. We learn in our rituals that there is no need to lean upon others. You are first rate, front rank, in the forefront, not second string. You can develop full trust in your own innate capacities so that you will never be overwhelmed nor overcome through helplessness nor become the desperate victim of despair.
Hmm.
Basically, it's okay. Here's the
Yeah,
path.
it's going to be okay. You're in control. You have the capability to react to anything thrown at you. You just need to seek within that human spirit to overcome.
And what a really nice guy. He put a poem in here written by his wife.
I know. I thought that was really cool. I was going to ask you if you read it and what you thought.
I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah. In a book co-authored in 1978 with the famous philosopher Karl Popper, Dr. Eccles insists that there must have been at some time an intervention of a transcendental agency in man's development. Only the existence of that power of the eternal divine could infuse into man a soul or even explain man's awareness of himself, his creation of values, his action on moral decisions, and his concept of time, past and present as well as future. Genetics do not account for human self consciousness, nor does simple evolution supply an answer. So, again, he's referring back to a scientist working with a philosopher and agreeing that there must have been some external agency
Yeah.
that developed the conscious thought of man.
Yeah. You tie in a whole lot of different things that seem to be different and in different directions, pulling them all together in the same place.
The soul is this unique creation that is ours for life. It is us. We are experiencing, remembering, creating, suffering, imagining. All of this is processed here with the soul central to it. Demonstrate his hypothesis, Dr. Eccles draws on his own field of neurophysiology and on other scientific disciplines such as anthropology, psychology, and physics. It all adds up to my similar intuitive conclusion that God, as the creator, touched and transformed man. Clearly, the war is not yet won. Science and philosophy, especially when linked through mysticism, have yet to conquer ignorance and superstition. Victory, however, appears on the horizon. Laboratory and library, science and philosophy, outstanding technicians and theologians are now united as advocates of man's unique quality, his immortal soul and ever expanding soul. The Scottish Rite, in its centuries of development, has been in the forefront of this endeavor. We always have taught the essential spirituality of existence and of man. Our rituals and doctrines have urged mankind to transcend the physical and touch the spiritual. Today, when even materialistic minded scientists admit the existence of a supra-sensual force, it is more obvious than ever that the true and basic essence of life is spiritual energy. We in the Scottish Rite couple our meditations with implementing action. We are Masonry in action.
You are working for the whole. You are acting for the future. Seek no reward, for great is your reward on this earth. The spiritual joy which is only vouchsafed to the righteous man. Fear not the great nor the mighty, but be wise and ever serene. Know the measure, know the times, study that.
That gives me chills, man.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I just hope that a lot of guys watch this podcast and get this book and read it because I really, really, really have done a 180 on on you know you you see one part of something or one part of someone, and you make a determination that that is all of it. And in this case, that's not true. This case, I mean, it has, I there over the last few days, I have called myself uh, stupid, stupid, stupid many times because of things that I missed and things that I realize now I could have been sharing with our classes concerning the transition into the Scottish Rite. And granted, you look deeper into all the material, and everybody pretty much agrees that the Scottish Rite is the journey of the soul back to God. You
Mm.
know, it's a journey of the soul back to God. And yeah, it's a long way, and it's a hard process to visualize that and get it. But I think that this man kind of knew what was going on. I really do.
Yeah, it's funny when I read this the first time, I didn't get a lot out of it. When I
He
read it intentionally to talk about it with you on the podcast, I
right.
got I got a lot more out of it. But I gotta say, tonight really kind of opened my eyes to what he was trying to communicate. I think just like Pike, being able to talk to you about it, get your perceptions of what he was saying, has clarified in my mind what it is that he's talking about.
I agree.
And I like it much more now than I even did before we started.
And I really do believe now that I've read this book and kind of gotten a couple ideas and listened to your point of view on everything, I really think that that he, as well as a lot of people in the Scottish Rite, are more complementary of each other, them and Pike of them, than they are contradictory. I think there's a whole lot more complementary going on than there is the opposite.
How many white balls you give in this book?
You know what? This book touched me, as you know, and we only have 10 white balls to give. Is that right?
Show me on this doll where this book touched you.
Huh? Are we running out of balls yet? Because I would really, because of the way this book was more than information. This book was feeling. There was a lot of feeling in this book, a lot of emotion in this book, a lot of stuff, and whether he did that on purpose or it just unconsciously came out. Uh, God, if the best I can do is 10 balls, then by God, I'm giving it 10 balls.
Wow.
And to a book that, just like you, when I read it the first time, I didn't give it much thought. But then when I got into it and started actually reading it and feeling what he was saying, you know, it's like that pops into your mind stuff, you know.
Yeah.
How
Well,
about give me some balls? What are you gonna do?
I think anybody who's interested in Scottish Rite Freemasonry ought to have this book on their shelf. I think it's
Without
going to be I think it's going to be tough for them to find it, especially after this, because whatever is available is probably going to
Yeah,
be sold relatively quickly.
yeah.
The first printing in 1980, he only printed 5,000 copies. The second printing in 1981, he printed 20,000. So 45 years ago, there was 25,000 copies of this book floating around. There's not been a reprint since. So wherever you can find a used copy, I would get it because it's a collectible.
I I think it's amazing given the 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 uh the strength of this book and how powerful it is. I think it's amazing that the Scottish Rite Imperial, Imperial hasn't reprinted.
Supreme,
Huh?
Supreme.
Supreme, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So
you're mixing your
yeah, I know it.
bodies.
And I think it's surprising that they haven't reprinted
Well, maybe art will. You know, it, it, I, it's worth doing. I think they'd sell quite a few copies.
I agree.
I'm gonna give it.
Hey, remember, oh, before you give it the balls, remember, illustrious Clausen is right here looking at you.
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.1.
Wow. Wow.
Hey, I'm a lot more conservative with my rating scale than you are.
You are. You are.
I've never given a 10. I don't think I've given more than a 9.4 to anything.
Well, when I,
So
when I
if
feel
it's in
good,
the nines, pay for whatever the asking price is. If it's in the eights, definitely buy it. If it's in the sevens, buy it and read it, stick it on your shelf. If it's below a seven, I don't know that I would bother. That's
well,
that's my view.
I think that like you said, this book deserves to be on every Mason's bookshelf. But if you're not gonna read it, then don't bother because it
Yeah, don't buy it because there's only a couple of them floating around out there. Let somebody who's actually going to read it buy it, you
exactly,
know, or
exactly.
buy it for your lodge library and let the guys read it there. That way all of everybody could read it.
And think, he if he did all these things, if he made the commentaries as a bridge, along with the emergence of the mystical, both as a bridge from Blue Lodge Masonry to encourage Blue Lodge Masons to embrace Scottish Rite Masonry and not be so fearful of Pike and morals and dogma. One of the best things he probably could have done is made it thin and not a whole lot of pages, so guys would read it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty easy read.
It really is.
Um,
And it's the kind of book that you can read, you can do it for a 30, 45 minutes, put it down and come back and you really didn't miss anything.
Emergence of the Mystical is one of those books that isn't really trying to convince you of mysticism so much as it's trying to explain why mysticism keeps happening across cultures, across centuries, and across different religious and philosophical systems. Clausen's main point is that the mystical impulse isn't some strange fringe phenomenon. It's a recurring part of the human experience, especially when people start pushing past surface level religion or surface level reality and begin searching for something deeper, more direct, and more personal. And even if you don't agree with every conclusion he hints at, the book is still valuable because it helps you see mysticism less as a set of exotic ideas and more as a pattern, a way humans respond to mystery, meaning, and the limits of ordinary explanation. So, if you're interested in symbolism, esoteric history, philosophy, or the inner life, this book is worth reading. It's not always a fast read, but it's the kind of book that gives you a framework for thinking about why mystical traditions exist at all and why they persist. Thanks for joining us. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who likes this kind of material. And as always, keep reading, brethren.